BookTube, welcome back to my channel. It's been a while since I posted a video, not because I haven't been filming. I've been recording lots of different clips. I just haven't been able to put them together. But today I'm gonna send you a video that I've been filming since September. It's time. Enjoy. A few weeks ago, Steve Donahue said in one of his videos that every booktuber should take some time periodically, whether every week or every month, and pay homage to their local library. Celebrate something about their local library. And ever since then, I've been trying to do more frequent library hauls. I get a lot of books that come through my hands that come from the library. Sometimes when I'm doing my book haul at the end of the month, I don't have those books anymore because I've read them already and probably returned them before the end of the month when I'm doing my monthly book haul. So I've started doing library hauls, but this month I wanted to do something a little different. Today I went to the library and I got 6 books, well, 5 books and a magazine, although the magazine is so big, it's way bigger than a couple of the books that I have here. So I don't know at what point a magazine grows up and becomes a book, although this is probably not that point of adulthood. But in any case, I have 5 books and a magazine. I have 6 pieces of reading material that I'm going to share with you. And I'm going to tell you all of them right now, but I'm also going to read them and tell you about them. This time, I'm not just going to collect them from the library and let them sit here on my shelves while the time expires and then return them without having read the books. This time, I'm going to read them, and I'm going to read them within a couple of days. So this video is going to happen over a few days where I'm going to read these 6 pieces of reading material and I'm going to tell you what they are. The first thing I'm going to read is a book that was recommended to me by Columbus, who's one of my subscribers here on my channel, but I follow him on Instagram. He doesn't have a YouTube account. This is The Lost Art of Reading, Books and Resistance in a Troubled Time by David Ulin. He's a Los Angeles Times book critic. And this book, he says, was conceived when he was having a conversation with his teenage son, who expressed some consternation over having to annotate the books that he was reading for his school literature assignments. And he said, the son said, it kept pulling him out of the story to stop every few lines and make a note, mark a citation, to demonstrate that he'd been paying attention to what he read. It would be so much easier if they'd just let me read it, he lamented. And I thought about that. Sometimes I've read a book and liked or didn't like the book, but having to justify my feelings from specific citations, specific examples in the book, felt a little bit like a chore sometimes. I mean, you feel what you feel whether or not you can justify it. So I saw Columbus talk about this book on Instagram and I said, I want to get my hands on that. I requested from the library. It came in today. It is such a small book. It's tiny. It's one of those 4x6 books, I suppose, 4x6 hardcovers. And it's 150 pages of book nerdishness. I want to read it. Next, I have a Women in Translation book that I requested in August. Just came in. It's Death in Spring by Merce, Rodoreda. I think I was supposed to do a buddy read of this one with one of my subscribers. Is it UK? Let me know in the comments. No, you can't let me know in the comments. By the time you're watching this video, I would have already read this book. So I'm gonna have to go back through some comments and see who I'm supposed to do a buddy read of this one with and see if maybe they're available tonight or tomorrow to read this book with me. It's a short novel and the synopsis says it's a story of the bizarre and destructive customs of a nameless town through the eyes of a 14-year-old boy. The boy struggles to come to terms with the rhyme and reason of the town's ritual violence and with his wild teenage mother who becomes his playmate. This author has been compared to Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and that synopsis of the book reminds me of the synopsis of Shirley Jackson's The Lottery, which is also named on the back of the book. So I'm looking forward to this. This is translated from Catalan. I think I was supposed to read this for the Women in Translation prompt to read a book that you hadn't read from that language before, except when I was in high school, I studied Spanish literature and I did read a book that was translated from Catalan, except I think I was reading it in the Spanish version, but that's another story for another time. So I'm reading that. Then I have Michael Ondaatje's Warlight. This is his new novel. It was nominated for the Man Booker Prize, but I don't know what the book is, whether it's as brilliant as his previous book, The English Patient, which won the Booker Prize when it was first published, but also won the Best of the Booker 50-year anniversary prize. So I guess they had to put his next novel on the nomination list, but it didn't move through to the short list. So I still haven't read The English Patient either. So I'm gonna have to read these two books together. It's interesting how their covers are similar. I mean, this is probably not the most well-known cover of this book, but these two are so similar. These two covers are both smoky gray with a man in black. So yeah, I'm gonna read these two books together. So whenever I'm reading this, I'm gonna read this. So let's find out what Warlight is about. It is 1945 and London is still reeling from the Blitz and years of war. 14-year-old Nathaniel and his older sister Rachel are seemingly abandoned by their parents, left in the care of an enigmatic figure they call the Moth. They suspect he may be a criminal and grow both more convinced and less concerned as they get to know his eccentric crew of friends. Men and women with a shared history, all of whom seem determined now to project and educate in rather unusual ways, Rachel and Nathaniel. So far, these three books have all mentioned a teenage child. The concept of this book was sparked by a conversation with a teenager. This one is about a 14-year-old boy and his stepmother, who's his playmate. And this one is about teenagers in London after the war. Okay, let's see, maybe we could keep this going. Not likely, not likely. Then I have Snap, which is probably the first crime thriller that was nominated for the Man Booker Prize in 2018, and a lot of people had a lot to say about that. And I didn't get a chance to read it because I requested it from the library when it was first longlisted, but it just came in now that the shortlist has been announced and it's not on there. So let's see what Snap is about. Jack's in charge, said his mother when she disappeared up the road to get help. I won't be long. So 11-year-old Jack and his two younger sisters, Jack is 11, sat in their broken down car, bickering and whining and playing I Spy, waiting for her to come back. But their mother didn't come back. She never came back. Now 3 years later, so now Jack is 14. Oh my goodness. All teenage characters in these books. So 3 years later, a young woman named Catherine Weil wakes to find a knife beside her bed and a note reading, I could have killed you. With a husband on the road and a baby on the way, Catherine makes a single bad choice that leads to a tangled web of deception and fear. Okay, so far of the 5 books that I got from the library, 4 of them have teenage characters. The next one will not have a teenage character. I'm pretty sure this is nonfiction. Peter Watson's Fallout, Conspiracy Cover-Up and the Deceitful Case for the Atom Bomb, A New History. I requested this one from the library because Steve Donahue shared it. I think it might have been in his September TBR BY, which is his list of books that he's read in the previous month that he thinks you should pick up in the next month to be read by you. And Fallout, the synopsis says, dismantles the conventional story of why the atom bomb was built. Peter Watson has found new documents showing that long before the Allied bomb was operational, it was clear that Germany had no atomic weapons of its own and was not likely to. The British knew this, but they didn't share their knowledge with the Americans, who in turn deceived the British about the extent to which the Soviets had penetrated their plans to build and deploy the bomb. I don't think I'll be able to read this in a day. It is almost 400 pages of science nonfiction, but I'm gonna try. I'm gonna start. I'm gonna at least give it a few chapters during my little experiment. And then finally, the magazine that I got, the book size magazine that I got, is the Beyonce Vogue. This is the September issue. I don't subscribe to Vogue. I used to subscribe to a lot of magazines. I found myself not having time to read them, and so I don't do that anymore. But every so often, I stop by the library and see magazines that I want to read, and I pick them up. And so this month, September's Vogue has Beyonce on the cover. I'm sure this is a collector's edition, and maybe if I really like it, I will go and buy it. But aside from that, when I looked on the back, I like that the back cover is a picture of Serena Williams pre the notorious US Open incident. But I also like this picture on the inside back cover, which is a celebration of women of color who are famous for lots of different things. And this picture right here, right in the middle, is Superwoman Lily Singh, Superwoman, who I admire. I watch her videos sometimes, and I like that this Olay campaign celebrates these women of color who are known for doing things. Like, they're not famous because they're beautiful, even though they are beautiful. They're famous because they've been hustling and grinding, man. Some of them are YouTube creators. She's one. This one I don't know. They say she's a video creator as well, and I'm going to check out these links and see. It says her name is Elise Fox, and she's a filmmaker and mental health advocate. And of course, there are lots and lots of pictures. So I guess that is why it's a magazine and not a book, because there are lots of pictures, and even where there's a lot of text, it's illustrated text, and it's not following any single theme. But it wasn't a real question, okay? It wasn't a real question. I understand the difference between books and magazines, but you could always feel free to tell me your thoughts in the comments. So over the next few days, I'm going to be reading these books and telling you a little something about them. I don't know how I'm going to incorporate this in my monthly reading vlog, but stay tuned for the rest of this video because it is an ongoing experiment. Right now, not even I know how it's going to end up. I'm at page 131 in Snappa by Belinda Bauer. I picked this one up because it was longlisted for the Man Booker Prize. And while I'm a fan of the whole crime thriller genre, I wasn't so sure about whether or not this would be literary enough for that prize. But I'm at page 131 and it just got good. So let me tell you what it's about. Opening scene, we meet three siblings, Jack, Joy, and Mary. Yeah, their names are a little unfortunate because there's nothing joyful or merry about their situation. When we meet them, they're in a car on the side of the road. Their mother has just left them to go make a phone call. The car has broken down and she's trying to go get help. And she doesn't come back. So when they go try to look for her, they find no one helps them. No one tries to help them. And that's when they find out that she's missing. Sometime later, you know, we flash forward and we see the police having told them that like there's a 911 call from where the mom actually called the police and tried to get help, and then it seems like she was abducted or she just left. And then we move to follow another character, a pregnant woman named Catherine, who 3 years later her house gets broken into, and someone tells her, because she's burgled while she's in the house, and the burglar leaves a note that says, "I could have killed you." And then they call her on the phone and say the same thing again, and she doesn't tell her husband, and she doesn't call the police, and you're wondering why. And at page 131 is when you figure out, well, we're not figuring out anything, we're being told why. And so far I'm really liking it. There's crime, there's mystery, there's a little bit of a love story, there is a little bit of psychological drama in that. Is the narrator really as unreliable as you think? However, this is not a first-person narrative. It's this all-seeing, omniscient narrator who knows what every character is doing, but also what they're thinking. And I'm really liking the writing style. It is a crime thriller, so it's doing what it's supposed to do, which is to keep me on edge. I think I could finish this today. It's a little under 300 pages, I think, and I like it. I like it a lot. I just don't really see anything in here yet that makes me think about this as literary fiction. So I'm not sure about the whole Man Booker nomination yet, but I like it. And if we're rewarding books that are readable and books that are fun to read, then this would definitely get my nod. And this is the kind of book you read sitting in bed, snacking on cereal. I'm at page 300 and something just happened that if you wanted to find fault with the author and find fault with the book, you might think it's lazy writing, but it was just so funny. I thought I could tell, but I couldn't, and then I could. This whole book is a series of red herrings, and I suppose that's why the cover is red. I'm still not sure why it's called Snap though. I have about 40 pages left. I thought this was a 300 page or under book, but it's about 340 pages. I don't know about you guys, but when I see code in a book, I don't move on. I spend oodles of time trying to figure out the code, even though I know that if I just let the page turn, that the author will tell me. I just want to see if I could do it before she tells everybody else. So the clue chapter is 7 pages long, and yeah, it took me a lot longer than if I just read the 7 pages, but I figured it out in 3 pages. I feel so proud of myself. Okay, so that's it. I'm going to send in my application for detective work. I finished reading Snap by Belinda Bauer, and so I'm finished with one of the books from my library haul. I don't think it's a Man Booker winning book because I could connect some dots and make it literary. Like, there are parts in here where the author speaks about Dickensian culture, and we have this young boy who's committing crimes to support his family, which is very Dickensian. But I didn't feel like it was sufficiently literary in that way. I think it's something you could probably pick apart for every crime novel, that there seem to be inconsistencies in what the victims or the criminals are doing while the other characters are living. You see people going to sleep and being awakened, and so we know that days have passed. But while the detectives are there trying to solve this crime, what are the criminals doing? What are the other victims doing? That is definitely the major flaw with this one. The ending felt a little forced, like you knew that it was coming, you could see it coming, you knew why it had to happen that way. But there was a little section where it needed a little bit of something. So it's set in the early 2000s, so there's a lot that would probably make this kind of crime not possible anymore, and I think the author treated that kind of standard. I don't think she wanted to have to deal with some of the crime solving techniques that are available now that she didn't mention. So I'm moving on because I have a whole lot more books to read before they're due back at the library. Michael Ondaatje's new novel, Warlight. It was nominated for the Man Booker Prize this year, although he won the Booker Prize for The English Patient, which won the Best of the Booker in the 50th anniversary. And here's the opening line of this book. First, we get to the little quote that is supposed to tell us what the book is going to be about. Most of the great battles are fought in the creases of topographical maps. Part 1, Table Full of Strangers. In 1945, our parents went away and left us in the care of two men who may have been criminals. We were living on a street in London called Ruvigny Gardens, and one morning, either our mother or our father suggested that after breakfast the family have a talk. And they told us that they would be leaving us and going to Singapore for a year. Not too long, they said, but it would not be a brief trip either. We would, of course, be well cared for in their absence. I remember our father was sitting on one of those uncomfortable iron garden chairs as he broke the news, while our mother, in a summer dress just behind his shoulder, watched how we responded. After a while, she took my sister Rachel's hand and held it against her waist as if she could give it warmth. Neither Rachel nor I said a word. So see, I don't even want to stop reading this book, so I guess this is my next read. I'm at page 101 in Michael Ondaatje's Warlight, and right now it's a little tedious. There's a lot of description about dog racing. The two caretakers, the darter and the moth, and I know the names are metaphors, but I'm not really loving it. And they're taking this young boy into a life of dog racing, which he says is illegal. And I know that their involvement is also supposed to represent the unlawfulness of what they do otherwise, which is, if these are two men who are involved in illegal activity, what else are they doing that is also not lawful? So I get that, but I'm not a fan of this whole section of the book. I'm not really loving this whole dog racing thing. Remember how blurry the cover of this book is? That's what the book itself is revealing. It's not quite revealing itself. So everything and everyone is blurred. Everyone has a different name. On page 117, the mother in the story, Nathaniel and Rachel's mother, returns. And it's not a spoiler, right? Because even though that happens on page 117, it tells us right there in the synopsis, how should the siblings feel when their mother returns without their father after months of silence, explaining nothing, excusing nothing. I'm going to make a video soon talking about book synopses and how much of the information in the book is revealed in a book summary, and whether that's a good thing or not. Because I know that the mother has left, and you know that there are suspicious circumstances. The fact that they have found her trunk, even though she made this big to-do about packing this trunk for Singapore and all the things that she put in and that they helped her to pack. And then they find the trunk in the basement after she's gone. So they know she's not in Singapore. That much is evident. And so because of things that have been revealed about her and the people that she's chosen to stay with her children while she's away, you know that she's probably going to come back, or at least something about her disappearance is going to be revealed. But I don't know if you want to know that she's going to return. So part 1 ends with the mother's return. And part 2 is entitled Inheritance, which usually get an inheritance after the person dies. So since the mother has returned, does that mean that the father is now dead and they're going to inherit what he's left? Part 2 of this book happens about a decade later. And at this point, Nathaniel is writing about his mother, and I like this paragraph. It says, when you attempt a memoir, I'm told you need to be in an orphan state. So what is missing in you and the things you have grown cautious and hesitant about will come almost casually towards you. A memoir is a lost inheritance, you realize, so that during this time you must learn how and where to look. In the resulting self-portrait, everything will rhyme because everything has been reflected. That's such beautiful writing. It makes me ache that the book itself isn't better. And I think this is a criticism I've seen other places. Michael Ondaatje writes really good sentences. I just don't know if I'm as interested in the book as a whole right now. So we've moved from the post-war period to maybe a decade later. There's a lot of travel and a lot of maybe looking at the influence and the repercussions of the war, the post-war decades, and what that is like. So now I guess I'm starting to understand the metaphors that this book is supposed to be bringing out, that Nathaniel is showing what it was like to be associated with the war as an English person, a child of a person who served in the army, and maybe inheriting some of what the parents did and inheriting the repercussions of the parents' actions, whether they're negative or positive. So I'm starting to get it. Inheritance. Nice. Even though this seems to be a collection of vignettes from Nathaniel's life, I like the connections and the little segues that he gives. His sister, as ironic as it seems, a sister who's upset about the pretenses of her parents, becomes an actor. So here's Ondaatje's little dig at Americans. Wow, I say. They're watching an opera and Nathaniel says, wow. And the girl he's with says, please don't say wow. You were only in America a few months. I say wow a lot. And I guess I've been in America a little longer than just a few months. I liked the bridge between one war and the other. I liked the message that war gets complicated when you start to develop personal feelings. I liked how the mother and father are both involved in the war, and so they, while it seems that they're sacrificing their children, they're really preserving them because they know that if they continue being in their lives, they're going to put them in jeopardy. I like that the mother, even though she's not present at all points, that she's always in the background arranging things for her children. I think that's something that a mother does. And it's a very different perspective of maternal care and nurturing. I like the discussion of post-war Europe and America and the impact that living in those two places has had on Nathaniel. And I like the love story, which is a very unlikely love story that emerges through the fog, through the mist in this book. I really like the stories of these characters who seem to be in the background, like they're obscured in the mist and you wouldn't be able to tell who they are. But as you go further towards them, it's like they're also coming closer towards you. Because some of them, I guess some of them are walking away, but some of them are also on the approach. This wasn't a perfect book by any means. It wasn't as interesting or as plot driven as I would want it to be. Like, I'm giving this 4 stars. Michael Ondaatje's Warlight, 4 stars. I read a book called The Lost Art of Reading, and then I found the Center for Book Arts. Sadly, it's an old sign. The building no longer exists. Oh, Beyonce's all over this magazine. But these shoes are fire, literally. So the magazine is 646 pages. The article on Beyonce starts on page 538, and Beyonce, in her words, on pregnancy and body acceptance, opening doors, ancestry, my journey, freedom, Coachella. So you seems like we get this one kind of headshot right here, and this one is probably pinnable. There's no text on this page. They reserved it for this one, which is probably the one that you'd probably want to collect. Then here's another one that's collectible. This is the cover art. And the cover art, she's looking into the camera in this faraway shot. She's not. And she's talking about OTR, On the Run 2 tour. See, I'm not a huge Beyonce fan, so I don't know all the lingo. Then there's legacy. She says, I'm in a place of gratitude right now. I'm accepting of who I am. I will continue to explore every inch of my soul and every part of my artistry. I want to learn more, teach more, and live in full. I've worked long and hard to be able to get to a place where I can choose to surround myself with what fulfills and inspires me. And then we get a couple more pictures, and then that's it. So it went from 538, and it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pages. And yeah, that's it. It's over. Oh, I like this. Bloom, room, bloom. Is this the most bookish stuff that we're gonna get in this magazine? A picture of a bookshelf. Bloom, bloom, room. So that's the September issue of Vogue magazine, the Beyonce issue. I'm down to the last book in my library book haul. That is Fallout by Peter Watson. This is the last book because Death in Spring I had to return before reading it. I keep books for a really long time, and sometimes when there's a hold on it by someone else, I haven't gotten a chance to read it and I'm not able to renew it. Death in Spring was a case like that. But in any case, I'm reading Fallout by Peter Watson, and I'm not going to talk about it in this vlog because I'm going to be talking about it in my nonfiction November TBR. But it is interesting that I'm reading this book now, considering that I just read Voices from Chernobyl by Svetlana Alexievich in October, and I'm reading her secondhand time, Voices from the Soviets. I can't remember the title. I'm going to be reading that in November for Nonfiction November as well. And this one is very similar. It talks about conspiracy and government cover-up and how some of the things that we talk about, some of the political and current affairs issues, are not really described the way we hear about them. The real information about these events and these situations, they're not really shared with the public. And in this one, Peter Watson has said that he's been able to uncover documents that suggest that the Germans didn't have atomic bombs the way it was probably publicized. The reason that the Americans dropped the bombs to end World War II was really misinformation. Watson's findings suggest that the British knew the real story. They knew that Germany didn't have atomic weapons, and they allowed the Americans to continue thinking that they did, so that the bombs that they had planned to level off Japan, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, that they would continue to go along with that plan even though Germany wasn't the threat that they had originally thought. And so this book, I think, is going to really delve into cover-up, political cover-up, and the after effects when information isn't shared or when people are allowed to continue being deceived or being misled. I'll be talking more about this as my Nonfiction November experience is recorded. So for now, I'm going to wrap up this video. This is the end of my library haul vlog. I don't know how long this is going to be. I'm going to have to edit a lot of things because I've spoken about some of the books elsewhere, and so maybe now I don't have to talk about them as much in detail as I probably recorded for this video. So when I've edited, hopefully it's not too long. But if you stuck around, which means that if you're hearing this, then you stuck around. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching this video. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video, subscribe if you want to see more, and let's talk in the comments. Let me know which of these books was your favorite to hear about. And if you also do library hauls, let me know in the comments so I can go check out your video as well. So thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.